Now, like me, you probably hate GCSE English or English subjects in general, like your history or English. But I'm going to explain how to get it a grade 8 or a grade 9, even if, like me, you hate them and you like maths and stuff. So, here are the steps. Don't read the book, stop analysing poetry, only memorise 3 things. There's a hack I can give you, never describe the photo, always link to emotion, and make analysis into smart waffle. I'm going to explain each one. The first one is don't read the book. I didn't read the book, you don't have to. There is summaries you can find online of each book. I think they are as small as like 4 minutes. And then there's some good YouTubers, Mr. Everything English and Mr. Bruff, who condense all of the Englishy waffle that I honestly don't understand, and just put it in stuff you can remember. That's literally it. I honestly did not care about the stories. I don't think most people do. People know they're fictional. Yeah, they can be interesting to some, but if you're there for the grade, then don't read the book. There's no point. You're not going to remember every single word. Stop analysing poetry. This was a big thing. You're given a book at the start of year 10 usually, and it has 16 poems that you have to memorise. Or at least memorise some key quotes from. I think for mine I had some like Ozymandias, something about a war, kamikaze I think. I don't remember any of them. Frankly, I didn't read half of them. I was given a poem in the exam, and I knew I was going to be given 1 poem. So that means the minimum number of poems I need to have at least 1 poem to reference to is 2. So all you have to do is watch 2 poetry analysis videos from those guys before, Mr. Everything English, Mr. Bruff, there's more on YouTube. Watch 2 videos just before the exam, like literally the morning of the exam with the poems. Watch those videos. If the poem that came up is one of the ones you watched the analysis of, you're sorted, because you can just use those analysis terms as well as the other poem where you can link it and just speak about how the poems link with some key vocabulary or matching vocabulary, or how the stories are similar, or how they made you feel some way, even if they didn't. Just say they made you feel emotional and empathetic and sympathetic. And if the 2 poems don't come up, then you've got a choice. Do you want to memorize the first poem and compare to the first poem, or do you want to memorize the second poem and compare to the second poem? It's your choice. So that's even easier if you get lucky and neither of them come to your analysis. And all you have to do is read the first poem real quick in the exam, find like 5 big words, circle around them, say if it's like a nice clause or a nice sentence or something, circle around it and explain, this made me feel this way. Similarly, in this poem, it made me feel this way with this sentence. Contrastingly, this word used in the poem from outside of the exam made me feel like this, which is similar to in this poem, where it made me feel like this. That's it. You don't need to really be too serious. They don't care. It's just about saying how you feel because of the poem, how you're meant to feel. There's only 3 to 5 things you actually need to memorize. Technically 4, but for 3 of them for the whole exam. 1 is like 3 to 5 super dynamic quotes that you can adapt to everything. So don't memorize really niche quotes about characters that don't matter. Memorize key quotes about key characters. 3 to 5 is probably enough per exam. You can just watch another video the day of the exam. That's what I did. Mr. Everything English does have quote summaries for most books, and I think he's your best bet. Love that man. That man is the only reason I think I passed the exams. Memorize 3 to 5 and then watch his analysis on it, and just a few of the keywords he says, pull those out and then use them. You don't actually have to understand the analysis, just pull them out and use them. Next is, for the storytelling stuff, memorize 5 super words. What I mean by super words is words like distraught, just words that link to emotion that sound very impressive. So instead of saying good and bad and cold, you could say timid, or you could say distraught. Just things that are interesting to the Englishy people. You can just open a thesaurus, choose 5 words randomly, the first 5 words you see in your book, and find words that mean the same thing, and remember those for your exam. And finally, the plot of each book. I didn't read the books. You don't have to. Just watch the plot for each one. There is 3 to 4 minute videos on it. I think I said this before. And you don't need to go through the whole thing. There is no reason to read the whole book, because you're not going to remember the whole book in the exam. Now, for the essay writing, the story you have to write, make a 5-paragraph story structure and just use it in every single mock and every single exam you had. I wrote the same story with a little bit of a twist every time from year 10 to my actual exam. It was fine. Choose a random movie, book, or life experience, or ask ChatGPT for inspiration that takes you some sort of journey. So this could be something as simple as a box going through a factory to its customer, or you climbing up a hill and then rolling down that hill. For the first one, you're going to introduce the scene and the main person. Here you're going to use a lot of the adjectives that your teachers tell you. You can just ask them what are some good adjectives to describe a forest. Introduce some sort of friend or little accomplice. So this could be something as small as like a dog you're walking, or it could be a friend you make along the journey. Like you're walking up the hill and you see a friend and you're like, yo. Or you can also have something following you, so you don't officially have to know them or meet them. They could be following you. You then need a whoa part. So if you're walking up a hill, this could be something as small as you trip over and this leads you to seeing an ant infestation somewhere in the ground. Or the person following you taps you on the shoulder. And that's like the climax, as your teacher would probably say. Then you basically have to speak about your emotions in this and how you were so shocked and you're like, oh, but then it was all okay. Then you describe your falling from. So say if you made friends with the guy that tapped you on the shoulder, he was just walking the same way with you. You guys walked down the hill and you had a very deep conversation about the leaves and the plants and the water that flows around you. And really describe it. So if you've got water falling down, you say these like velvety oceans drift beneath me. And it's meant to sound dramatic. That's the whole point with English. It's meant to sound dramatic. And then finally, just wrap it all up. Say like, yeah, you went on with your day. You were so blessed. You got into work, you fell asleep. Don't say you woke up from a dream. That is like a standard grade 3, I paid attention in year 7 story ender. Never say that. Just something else, and you should be good. And just adapt it to the question they ask. So if the thing they say is, write about the time you faced a challenge, maybe say walking up that hill was extremely challenging. And it was like, oh, you were breathtaking, you were hiking, you had the sticks and you were hitchhiking up, you know? Or maybe if they say, the time you made a friend, well, yeah, there you go. You can just say you made a friend in the journey. Or a time where you fell from grace. You're at the top of the hill and you fell all the way down. They're not too strict on it being exactly with the sentence. It just has to link in some way. 5 is, you sometimes get a question where it's like, describe a picture or write an article or write something. Always write something, because describing the picture will just become a race for knowing the most fancy words and describing them in niche ways and abstracting all of these ideas. Like, you'll see a picture of someone on the bus and they're looking really sad, so you have to talk about how they might be having like problems and how they're taking the bus, not the car, because maybe they can't afford a car, maybe they can't drive, and you have to go on this long rant that doesn't make sense. Or you just write an article about something you're interested on. I actually enjoyed writing it. I forgot what mine was on now, but I remember walking out that exam and I really enjoyed it. Just like something that maybe the examiner could read. I remember I wrote about sports sciences. I wrote about the dangers of taking certain substances. I think it was like overdosing on caffeine and how it can happen a lot with pre-workouts. Just write something interesting. It could be about something you learned in maths 2 weeks before. And then just add a bunch of nice Englishy words and add a little bit of an extract where someone else gave you a quote and they told you that they experienced a lot of whatever. 6. Always link to emotion. If the story could, not that it made you, but if it could make you feel sad, if you could maybe sympathize with the person, or you felt, oh, maybe like I felt bad for them because they lost all their money, or maybe I feel really happy for them because they've just gained all their money, or their family has just reunited. Find something that sounds like that in the book and just yap. Say like, so I feel really emotional about this and I think the reader wants me to do this and he's picked this word and this word makes me feel in all sorts of ways, and I think it's meant to make the reader feel more accompanied by this character. It doesn't have to make any sense. It just has to link to emotion, because that shows like, yes, this person isn't just thinking about it at a surface level. You know how people say read between the lines? Never made sense to me. It's blank between the lines, for God's sake. They're trying to say like, link it to emotion or how it's meant to make you feel, what the writer's meant to say. He thinks it's an interesting story, so he's written the book. That's it. Don't overcomplicate it. Finally, analysis is just smart waffle. If you actually write an analysis that is analysed, you are that nerd emoji there. If you waffle about life, you're an instant Chad. It is so simple. Don't ever actually think about analysing. Take a word, say how it could make you feel, like I said before, and then just yap and waffle about anything to link with that word. So you could say, I'm going to pick up a random object on my desk. These AirPods, what they signify is that this person is really in love with music and that they use it as an escape mechanism from going to the gym to walking, and this might be a safety risk because they can't look around them or pay as much attention because they're listening to music. But it might be the case that they're not listening to music, they might be listening to podcasts and they might be using it for white noise. And the benefits of this, you literally can just yap. You don't even have to make that much sense. It just has to sound nice. And that's literally it, boys and girls. Subscribe for grade 9s. Thumbs up for almost guaranteed grade 9. Discord.gg/Zeno for my Discord. Instagram is dima.md. And yeah, peace. I don't know. Get a grade 9.